And I believe we are live. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm Mobile Geezer. And if you're following on YouTube, you know you're on the Mobile Geezer channel. But we simulcast on both of my Facebooks, which is Mobile Geezer or George Hayes. So if you're new here, we do this every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we pick some articles from the last week, from last Friday to this Friday, some tech articles to talk about. Usually, if there's a big event, I'll cover that in the articles. Other than that, I just try to come up with what I think is interesting, especially for us tech nerds. And I think most of you guys tend to like the same kind of tech articles that I do. So this week, there was no huge event that I'm aware of, unless you guys tell me otherwise. But first thing I should tell you, Eleanor was the first one in. She was in here almost an hour ago, 7:09. So she says, everybody have a great weekend, and says hi. Brian, of course, Mr. Faithful, checked in. He's at Universal Horror Nights. Now, there's one in California. There's one in Orlando. I'm guessing he's at the one in Orlando. Now, Eleanor and I lived in Orlando for 17 years, but we never went to Horror Nights. So hopefully he has a good time. But he checked in, and being as faithful as he is, he also gave his usual donation, and he says he'll catch the replay, which I know he does. So those are the two that I'm aware of. I'll let you know if anybody else pops in, and of course I'll let you know if Ted comes in. I haven't heard from Ted in about a month, I guess now, and of course occasionally maybe Mike will pop his head in here, and once in a great while even Will. But other than that, you just get me, and of course if it's just me, it'll be a shorter, longer rather than longer night. So like I've said, if you're new here, you can see the stories for tonight on my website. So let me go share screen, and it'll show you tonight's show notes. So every week I have the show notes on my website. If you go to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, if you click on today's date, you'll get just the show notes for tonight's show. And as I usually do, I'll give you a little preview of what we're going to go through tonight. Like I said, no major tech event that I'm aware of. But it did start off with, we've reported the Epic and Apple and the Epic and Samsung court battles over the last few years. Well, the Apple and Google fight wasn't enough for Epic. A new suit against Google and Samsung this time. So I found that one on Android Central. Now, Epic's been winning these battles against both Apple and Google, so we'll see how they do with this one. This one's a little bit different. So, and I always try to make what I think is the bigger story of the week the second story, giving people a chance to get in. So, this is not a tech story, but I figure as much effect as it has on us in the United States, I figure I should share this, a possible end to the port worker strike. So there's a tentative agreement. I have it on the verge, but of course it's everywhere. I just wanted to report on it. So shouldn't have any great disasters in getting stuff from the stores. People have already started hoarding, so I've heard. So that'll be our second story. It's a short one. Third, I just said, do we need satellite connections? Ask this week's Verizon customers. And, Verizon had a big outage. Well, got a story on Android Central from Jerry Hildenbrand. And, of course, most of us consider him the best writer. And so he wrote a good story on Android Central. And then I got another Android Central story. The FTC is cracking down on AI scammers and fakes. I should have said deep fakes, really. So that's also an Android Central, different writer. After that, none of these stories are really long, though. I just happened to run into this story. Elon's promised robo-taxis, and I just said, yeah, right. That was all me. Because, he's been promising, 10 years, I think? versus the competition. I found the story on CNBC, so we're just kind of checking in to see where he is with the robo-taxis, which to me, he hasn't gotten anywhere yet. At least he hasn't shown us anything yet. And finally, Hurricane Helene even shut down a couple of chip-making facilities. This is in North Carolina, and this shot was from the town that those two chip-making facilities are in. I didn't know we had any major chip-making facilities in the U.S., but I gather you need quartz, very high-quality quartz, to make really good chips. And I guess the best high-quality quartz comes out of these two plants. Well, they've shut down for who knows how long. Hopefully not long. So we'll go into that. And that was on CNN.com. And the last story I just thought was interesting, California had passed a deep fake law just September, and a judge has already put the brakes on that. So we're going to that, and that was on Gizmodo. So those are the stories we're going to go over tonight. Let me stop screen just for a minute here. And as I said, if you're new, please type something in the comments and let us know where you're from. Other than that, if anybody else pops into the comments, I'll try to let you know and keep track of that. And I'll certainly let you know if Ted or Mike or Will, by some miracle, shows up at all. Will did pop in the comments last week, but I guess he didn't have time to come on the show. Of course, Mike and Will and Ted always have the link to the show. But as I told you guys, Will works a 5-day full week in his regular nursing job, and then he comes home and sleeps on Friday nights. Saturday gets up and works another full-time nursing job straight through all day Saturday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. He does a 48-hour straight work. So the man's a little tired, and I can understand that. So let's go back to the stories, and we'll do the first one. And any comments you guys want to make, you feel free. I'll try to keep up with the comments. So the Apple and Google fight wasn't enough for Epic, a new suit against Google and Samsung. So this was on Android Central, as I said. And this one's by Nicholas Diaz. It was published 2 days ago. Epic sues Google and Samsung in a new fight about third-party apps. According to Epic, the safety tools, and that's what this one's about, are reportedly nothing shy of anti-competitive. And after reading the article, I think I agree with Epic. So let's drop this into Reader View and let you guys see what this is all about. Epic Games is taking its crusade for third-party app stores to Google again and Samsung. Like I said, they basically won the suit against Google last December. At least mainly won the suit. So this is a brand new one. The latest lawsuit reportedly concerns Samsung's auto blocker feature on devices running One UI 6 and up. According to The Verge, the feature is turned on by default on Galaxy devices, preventing users from downloading/installing unauthorized apps. This extends to third-party app stores too, to which Epic says there is no process for an outside party to authorize itself. So they're saying, yeah, you can block the third parties, but you need to allow some third parties to come in with their stores and authorize themselves, and they're not doing that. Epic CEO Tim Sweeney states the thing's not designed to protect against malware, which would be a completely legitimate purpose. The thing's designed to prevent competition, and I kind of agree with them. The Verge contacted Samsung for confirmation about auto blockers functions, which it neither confirmed nor denied. However, Samsung spokesperson Chris Langlis stated, contrary to Epic Games' assertions, Samsung actively fosters market competition, enhances customer choice, and conducts its operations fairly. Gee, what else would they have said? And that's in here. Annette, glad you got in. Annette, thanks for being here. Just on the very first story. The gaming company reportedly approached Samsung to create a whitelisting process for Auto Blocker, and I think that's a very reasonable request. This would have relieved the strenuous 21-step process awaiting users looking to get around the automatic safety feature. So you need to do 21 different things, I guess, to get through that stuff. Talks fell by the wayside, and now Epic has delivered a draft of its 42-page lawsuit against Samsung and Google. So they included Google, but I think this is mainly Samsung. The latter is wrapped in this because of its alleged antitrust practices against third-party stores similar to Samsung. What's more, Epic purports that Samsung colluded with Google to create its auto blocker feature, but there's no proof. Yeah, I think they're going to have to prove that. Regardless, Google has denied such allegations. Its head of security for Android, Dave Kleidermacher, stated Google did not request that Samsung create their auto blocker feature. So they're saying this is Samsung on its own. The publication reports that Epic is seeking a jury trial once again, yet so far, track-wise, they seem to win the jury trials. At least they've been successful thus far. Additionally, Sweeney states this fight, like its initial battle with Google, is for all developers, not just Epic. And that's generally true. What is decided is usually going to help or hurt everybody. Epic's fight against Samsung regarding its anti-competitive auto blocker isn't new, as the company's CEO voiced his displeasure over this summer. Sweeney played a similar tune to its earlier fight with Google, stating in a tweet, "This change obstructs users from installing competing stores." Epic was able to parade around a victory against Google in its antitrust case about the Play Store in December 2023. And we reported on that back then. A jury unanimously agreed that Google's Play Store operated as a monopoly and employed antitrust practices against other developers. And Google's having the same losing issues with the EU and Europe too. The start of that battle was the result of Epic adding its own payment system, namely for purchasing V-Bucks for Fortnite, and they won that. During the hearing, it was stated that the Play Store was responsible for 95% of Android downloads. That's a lot. Seen as dominance, yeah, I'd say that's dominance, Epic stated Google played rough with developers and smartphone makers who may have challenged them. The latter denied such theory, stating its stronghold benefits users. I don't see how, but maybe they can make a case. As The Verge also noted today, this was 2 days ago, October 2nd, this victory verdict for Epic in 2023 didn't involve unknown sources or third-party app stores, so that's why this is a separate suit. With this newfound lawsuit narrowing its scope for both Google and Samsung, Epic might find itself back in the courtroom, and I'm guessing that's where they want to be. Otherwise, they wouldn't have requested a jury trial. So it's an ongoing battle, but I do tend to agree with Epic Games that what they get as an outcome here probably will help everybody else too if they win. So we'll see what happens. Okay, nothing else new in the comments, so we will head on to me, it's the bigger story of the week because of the impact on us in the United States. But like I said, not a tech story. I just thought it was worth reporting on. And this all came down about 7 p.m. last night. That's when I guess they worked out their differences in the strike. So, and I said a possible end because you'll see this goes until January, and we might be doing this all over again, but you'll see what I mean. So a possible end to the port worker strike, The Verge. Let's check it out. And port workers on the East and Gulf Coast, and that's where the two strikes were, where the strikes were, not on the West Coast, agreed to the end of their strikes. A tentative agreement on wages has ended the 3-day strike while negotiations continue. And that's the key, while negotiations continue. So they're ending the strike, but only for, I think it's 90 days. This was written by Jay Peters, and this was from yesterday. So let's Drop it into Reader View, drop some of these ads out. Many ports along the east and Gulf Coast were shut down, threatening the country's supply chain. Yeah, everybody was panicked after unionized port workers went on strike on Tuesday. But those workers were returned to work after reaching a tentative agreement on wages with the group representing port employees. I'm assuming they were back to work today. Pardon me. As part of the agreement on wages, the United States Maritime Alliance has offered to get this up wages by 62% over a 6-year contract. That is one nice raise, the New York Times reports. The two groups still have other issues to negotiate, and they have agreed to extend the master contract, which is what they're under right now, until January 15, 2025. So middle of January, we could be going through this all over again. Let's hope they work it out. The International Longshoremen's Association, which represents the workers, and the United States Maritime Alliance, which represents their employers, shared a joint statement about the agreement Thursday evening. The International Longshoremen's Association and United States Maritime Alliance Limited have reached a tentative agreement on wages and have agreed to extend the master contract until January 15, 2025, to return to the bargaining table to negotiate all other outstanding issues. So hopefully they'll do a lot of negotiating in the next 3 months. Effective immediately, all current job actions will cease and all work covered by the master contract will resume. So I'm assuming they resume today. So that was it. Like I said, short story, but I thought it was important to let everybody, just in case you haven't heard about it, because you probably have already seen stuff in the stores where people were panicking and starting to buy up stuff and hoard stuff, and hopefully that all ends right away. So let's hope it all gets worked out. So that's my second story, and nothing else new in the comments. I'm sure all of us in the U.S. are glad that they're working this out and continuing to work it out. So on to our next story. I just said, do we need satellite connections? Ask this week's Verizon customers. Like I said, this was on Android Central, and it's in response to Verizon's big outage this week. The Verizon outage showcases why satellite connections and disaster roaming, I hadn't heard of disaster roaming before, but it's explained in the article, are important, by Jerry Hildenbrand, who most of us think is the best guy at Android Central, and he's been there a very long time, longer than anybody else that's there right now. You might still have a connection. So like I said, he did this 4 days ago, Monday. So let's go into Reader View. You probably know about how bad it is in areas of North Carolina and eastern Tennessee that were hit by Hurricane Helene. These communities are not prepared for this sort of disaster like other places. Yeah, because up in the mountains, they don't usually get this. And the cleanup is going to be slow and painful. We here at Android Central and across the future brands wish everyone well and are hopeful that people will be able to return to a normal life sooner rather than later. So I guess Jerry's okay because he lives in West Virginia. So I haven't heard anything terrible there, but that's certainly not very far from some of the areas of North Carolina that were hit. If you'd like to help out victims and survivors, you can donate to the Red Cross or sign up as a volunteer. Unfortunately, Verizon is having an unplanned outage over much. So he was writing this while the outage was still going on. It got solved basically Monday night. Verizon is still having an unplanned outage over much of the United States, including areas impacted by Hurricane Helene, making communication difficult or even impossible for many. And that's why he wrote this article, because in these kind of disaster situations, it's very much needed to have the connection. It doesn't appear that the two are connected. So not the Verizon outage and the hurricane not connected, but just bad timing for people affected. as people across the U.S. in affected areas also report issues with Verizon. That's little consolation to people trying to survive another day, though. There are two very important things you need to know about if you're a Verizon customer: satellite messaging and disaster roaming. If your phone is equipped with emergency satellite services like recent iPhones and the Pixel 9 series, and I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max not with me today, and I have the latest Pixel 9 Pro. So both of those two phones have the satellite services. You can use it to send out a message for help. It tells you how to set that up on those two. With the iPhone, you can use satellite services for non-emergencies. That's true. They let you use it anytime as well. So don't be afraid to text your friends and family. They want to hear from you. I realize this may not help people who can't get connected, but if you can, visit these links and share them, especially with responders and volunteers. Now, keep in mind, this was all Monday, but they're still having a tough time over there in North Carolina, which is about 2 hours away from where we are right here in Chattanooga. Another important thing to know is that the state of North Carolina has enabled the disaster roaming rule, and I just learned about this in this article. This means anyone with any phone can connect to any available cellular provider, provided your phone has the correct network capabilities. It probably does. So anybody with a phone should be able to connect to any carrier while this emergency is happening. This means Verizon customers can connect using AT&T or T-Mobile infrastructure to make calls and send messages. That's good to know, thank God. This is important because not everyone has a new phone that can connect to a satellite, true, especially in rural areas, and Jerry lives in a very rural area too, most affected by Hurricane Helene. The list of satellite-supported Android phones is unfortunately thin, but there are a number of companies working to make this a more ubiquitous feature across devices and carriers. Motorola even launched a device that more or less brings satellite connectivity to any phone. That's nice. Hopefully, disasters such as this can help provide a bit of added urgency to get these services off the ground. I hope so. Until then, we have to work with what we have. To use disaster roaming, you simply need to go into your phone's network settings and make sure roaming is enabled. That's great. Don't worry, it's not going to cost you anything, and it might get you connected in a pinch. Verizon will get things sorted out in due time, but until then, some people absolutely need to be able to use their phones. And as I said, by Monday evening, I think Verizon had things back up and running. Playing games and using social media can be fun, but the main purpose of your smartphone is still to be in touch with the people you care about. I think it meant to say, and care about, period, I think. If you're affected by Hurricane Helene, I have friends and family who are. I hope they are safe and sound. Material things can be replaced, and there should be plenty of help in the weeks and months to come. The Pixel 9 isn't just a fun AI phone. It also comes with potentially life-saving SOS connectivity that can get you help when you're in an area with no cell coverage. And when I was setting mine up, it had me set that up. This is particularly helpful when facing major network outages. So I just thought that was a good article to read this week, because even though the Verizon outage and the hurricane had nothing to do with each other, you can see why it's important, especially for the people hit by the hurricane. So good article, Jerry. So let's get out of that. Nothing else new, so we will continue that after I get a little drink of my green tea. Oh, and I try to remember to tell you guys what phones I have. Let's stop for a second. The phones I took to work today. So today, I had my Nothing Phone 2, and my main phone was my OnePlus Open. And of course, you know, my phones are dependent on my watch. And my OnePlus Open because I'm wearing my OnePlus Watch 2 today. I'll try to remember to let you guys know which phones I'm carrying for today. All right, back to our stories. Okay, next one up. Like I said, I just try to find interesting stories that I think will interest us tech heads. The FTC is cracking down on AI scammers and fakes. And this, again, Android Central, different writer. The FTC is stepping up its fight against fake AI promises and scams. That's by Jay Bongolto, and this was published last Saturday. The FTC's new Operation AI Comply program is cracking down on companies pushing misleading AI services. Let's drop into review. Lose some of these ads. The Federal Trade Commission is cracking down on deceptive AI practices and launched legal action against companies making false AI claims or offering tech that can be easily misused for fraud. Operation AI Comply, the FTC's new program, has uncovered 5 cases where companies used AI to boost deceptive practices. Now, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with the story that I'm coming up later about the California's new AI deepfakes law. So, 2 separate things. These include a so-called robot lawyer. This sounds so ridiculous to me. AI-generated fake reviews and shady online storefronts. One case involves Do Not Pay, get this, which claims to have the world's first robot lawyer that could sue anyone with just a click. I don't think that works. Now, the FTC is scrutinizing the company for not following through on its promises. Do Not Pay offered services like using a virtual card to dodge free trial fees and filing complaints against businesses. However, the FTC claims it exaggerated its capabilities, you think, saying things like users could sue for assault without a lawyer, good luck with that, and quickly create valid legal documents. The FTC has called out Do Not Pay for making baseless claims, so they're probably just soaking people for money, that its robot lawyers could replace human lawyers in creating legal documents. Do Not Pay had claimed it would replace the $200 billion legal industry with artificial intelligence. Who would fall for this? I guess somebody did or might. However, the FTC argues that Do Not Pay had no evidence to back these claims. As a result, the company has agreed to a $193,000 settlement with the FTC. Seems to me they got off kind of late. Maybe they're not a big company. The FTC is also going after companies that claimed AI could help people profit from online storefronts. One case involved Ascend Ecom, which supposedly misled individuals about the earning potential to lure them into investing into, get this, risk-free AI-driven business opportunities. The FTC claims Ascend Ecom didn't honor its money-back guarantees. And risk-free means you get your money back, no problem, when those investments didn't pan out. Besides the companies already mentioned, e-commerce empire builders Ryter, I guess that's how you pronounce it, and FBA Machine are also being investigated by the FTC. The complaint against Ryter reveals that subscribers could use its AI platform to generate misleading fake reviews. Yeah, I can see why people would want that, packed with false info that might mislead customers. Some users ended up creating thousands of those questionable reviews. Meanwhile, e-commerce empire builders and FBA Machine tout that customers can cash in by investing in AI-powered online businesses. Sounds like people are getting soaked here. However, the FTC alleges that e-commerce empire builders forces clients to sign contracts that stop them from leaving negative reviews. Unbelievable. So, just a quick story, but I just thought it was interesting because everybody wants you to invest in AI, and I guess some people are just dumb enough to fall for anything with the words AI or artificial intelligence attached. So glad they're cracking down on that. And our next story, I just happened to find this story yesterday. Elon's promised robo-taxis. I said, yeah, right, versus the competition. I found this on CNBC. And, Elon's been talking about these for a long time, I think 10 years. So I just think it's interesting to see what he's doing about it or hear what we hear about it every once in a while. After a decade of Elon Musk promising Tesla robo-taxis, here's what we know. And this is from 2 days ago by Andrew Evers and Laura Kolodny. So let's drop this into reader view. For a decade, so I said 10 years, for a decade, Elon Musk has championed the idea that one day Tesla cars would drive themselves as robo-taxis. Next week, the company will unveil the design of its autonomous cab. So I guess there's going to be some kind of unveiling. Despite years of bold predictions and missed deadlines, that's true, fans of the company are holding out hope that Musk will finally deliver at an October 10th event. So next Thursday. Regardless of what the company showcases at its Robo-Taxi Day, experts are skeptical of the company's strategy. Yeah, I wonder why. Citing its autopilot and FSD technology as a barometer for Tesla's progress or lack thereof. Yeah, if Tesla's lack autopilot from everything I've ever seen in videos and articles has never really worked very well. In the decade that Musk has promised driverless vehicles, competitors have made them, and it's true. Alphabet owned Waymo, and I think Waymo is more successful at this than anybody. Alphabet is the same company that owns Google, already operates a commercial robo-taxi service in several U.S. cities. Get these numbers, surpassing 100,000 paid rides per week. So I'd say they're pretty successful. As of August, Amazon owned, I didn't hear of this one, Zoox, began testing rides for employees in February 2023. So they've been a year and a half already, with ambitions to launch its own robo-taxi service. So I gather Waymo has been pretty successful, at least out there on the West Coast. In China, Pony AI and Baidu are running commercial robo-taxi services too. I've heard of Baidu. I never heard of Pony AI. The market could be lucrative. In one bullish estimate, Raymond James predicts $50 billion in annual robotaxi bookings by 2030. Was based on Waymo, 100,000 rides per week. Yeah, I'd say they're doing pretty well, and that might be a pretty good possibility by 2030. With U.S. EV sales growth slowing, there's a lot riding on Tesla's potential pivot to autonomy. So right now, Waymo is really beating everybody in the U.S., and I guess Amazon is doing okay too, or beginning to. So I guess next Thursday, watch for some event from Elon and Tesla about their robo-taxis. Yeah, I'm going to guess not yet, but who knows? I could be wrong. And Elon's pretty smart, so he could have gotten it done by now. We'll see. Okay, next story. All right, this one has to do with Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene even shut down a couple of chip-making facilities, I said temporarily. This was on CNN.com. Devastation from Hurricane Helene could bring semiconductor chip making to a halt. Yeah, I realized these two little companies are kind of a big deal worldwide, chip making. This was by Claire Duffy and Diane Gallagher, and it was from 2 days ago. Let's drop it into reader view. Come on. I'll give it one more shot. Usually the second shot will work. There we go. The devastation in North Carolina in the wake of Hurricane Helene could have serious impact for a niche but extremely important corner of the tech industry. I had no idea about these companies. Tucked in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and that's right in the center of where they got killed with Hurricane Helene in the mountains, on the outskirts of Spruce Pine, and that picture I showed you, was Spruce Pine. A town of less than 2,200 are two mines that produce the world's purest quartz, and I guess that's the thing. This quartz is extremely pure, which formed in the area some 380 million years ago. The material is a key component in the global supply chain for semiconductor chips, which power everything from smartphones and cars to medical devices and solar panels. But operations at the facilities have halted since Hurricane Helene tore through the southeast United States over the weekend, causing historic flooding and landslides, and they got both in that town, cutting off roads and power and endangering millions of residents. Sibelco and the Quartz Corp, so those are the two companies. The companies that separately manage the two mines say they shut down operations on September 26th. So that would have been Thursday, a week ago yesterday, ahead of the storm, and are working to restart. So I don't know if they've gotten restarted yet. Sounds like it might be a while. On Friday, October 4th, which is today's date, I don't know how they wrote this yesterday, but they did. Sibelco says its facilities only sustained minor damage, and restoring the power to its plants has progressed significantly. So maybe they're up and running, or they'll soon be up and running. But this is impacting worldwide, so let's hope they get up. Our final product stock has not been impacted. That's good. We're working closely with our customers to assess their needs and plan the restart of product shipments as soon as we can, the company said in a statement. What is clear is that the facilities, like the rest of the surrounding area, are grappling with infrastructure disruptions such as flooding, power outages, road shutdowns, and a lack of phone service. And crucially, they're still trying to get in contact with all of their local employees, hopefully they have by now, who make up their specialized workforce, many of whom have been displaced or have seen their homes damaged. Yeah, a lot of people lost homes. Supply chain experts say it could take weeks to make the mines operational again, which could mean chip shortages and price hikes at a particularly bad time for the tech industry, as Silicon Valley giants plow billions of dollars into chips to run artificial intelligence systems. If you wanted to identify one mine complex that is critically important to the semiconductor manufacturing industry and also solar panel industry, it's the Sibelco and the Quartz Corp mines in Spruce Pine. So very important, I gather, said Seaver Wang, co-director of the Climate and Energy Program at Environmental Research Center, the Breakthrough Institute. Spencer Bost, executive director of Downtown Spruce Pine, that's the town, and they got hit really bad, an economic development organization, told CNN Tuesday that the level of devastation here is insane. And we'll go back to the picture when I'm done, but you'll see why. We know nothing right now about damage for the mining companies right now, but the damage in Spruce Pine is so devastating, I'm not sure when they will have employees able to return, both said. People are hurting. Properties are destroyed. There are places where the roads no longer exist. Yeah, and there's lots of videos and pictures where even I-40, which goes across the whole country, it's just chunks of it entirely gone on both sides, east and west. My fiance is a third grade teacher, and her principal got hold of her yesterday and said basically the school is gone. So Sibelco, the Belgian company whose Spruce Pine mine is the country's largest employer, so I guess that Belgium's largest employer, but they work in North Carolina, said in a post on its website that it had confirmed the safety of most employees and are working diligently to contact those still unreachable due to ongoing power outages and communication challenges. Please rest assured that Sibelco is actively collaborating with government agencies and third-party rescue and recovery operations to mitigate the impact of this event and to resume operations as soon as possible. The Quartz Corp, Sobelco's smaller but still important neighbor that's owned jointly by a French and a Norwegian mineral company, called the fallout hurricane a dramatic situation for the region and said it has no visibility into when its operations might restart. So it sounds like they got hit worse than Sobelco. Our focus is to ensure that our employees and their families are safe while all efforts are made to contact those which are still unreachable. In addition to this, our teams are joining the local task forces to try to restore the most basic services and bring further supplies to Spruce Pine, the Quartz Corp said in a statement. So it sounds like, they're in the worst hit area in the whole state. Quartz is an essential ingredient in the semiconductor manufacturing process. I had no idea. And its purity is crucial to avoid damaging the chips. You're building these incredibly complicated chips that have, in some cases, 100 billion transistors, 100 billion tiny little machines on a chip that is the size of your thumbnail. That's true. One atom being out of place could mean a defect that breaks the chip, said Gregory Allen, and this is why they're so expensive, director of the Wadhwani, I guess, Center for AI and Advanced Technologies at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And while quartz is abundant, you can find quartz almost anywhere, but I guess not this kind of quartz. The kind of ultra-high purity quartz mined in Spruce Pine is not so abundant. That's why it's so important. The Spruce Pine mines provide an estimated, get this, 80 to 90% of the world's high purity quartz. So just out of this one little town, experts say that the exact amount is proprietary and unknown, supplying semiconductor manufacturers like chip-making giant Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company. So TSMC, that's by far the biggest chip maker in the world, and most places get their chips. Maybe 80% of the world get their chips from TSMC. So this is kind of a big deal. Who would have thought two little companies in North Carolina? Some chip manufacturers, so, I guess the main part of the chips is not this quartz, but this quartz being such high quality is a very big deal. So that's the point that I had no idea until I read this. Some chip manufacturers may have up to several weeks supply of high purity quartz, that's good, to be able to continue production, but a longer shutdown at the mines will likely mean chip shortages. In some cases, purifying regular quartz can be used as an alternative, but the world doesn't have the capacity to do that purification in high enough quantities to make up for the loss of Spruce Pine. I would expect there to be a pause and a disruption in the supply chain for major chip manufacturers. Remember, we went through this back in 2020, as they wait for these mines to reopen, said David Bader, professor and director of the Institute for Data Science at New Jersey Institute of Technology. What's more, even if the mines themselves are able to reopen, they will need local infrastructure like roads to get the product out to customers. That's true. I mean, I guess they could probably fly the chips out if they can, get them manufactured still. A chip shortage would cause many industries to grind to a halt. The 2021 global chip shortage caused by the COVID-19 pandemic meant, for example, that car manufacturers were building nearly complete cars but couldn't ship them because they lacked chips to power critical features. And that went on for about a year, driving up car prices, or at least a year. Most of the American economy, due to some greater or lesser extent, is downstream from the semiconductor industry as a critical input, SIS's Allen said. However, Wang said that despite the scale of the devastation in Spruce Pine, there is still reason for optimism. That's good. This mine is considered a national strategic asset, and I would imagine that the federal government is going to move hell and high water to get it up and running as fast as possible. I would hope. Everyone knows this mining complex is important, Wang said. So, no idea these two little companies next door was such a big deal, but I gather they're kind of a big deal worldwide. So, very interesting story. Okay. Will, are you in here?
What's going on, George?
It looks like Will is in here. I'll bet you he's at work. But if not, his mic is not muted. So if he pops in, I'll let you know.
George.
Well, I've got you in here, so let me know
George.
if you say anything anytime you're ready. So, gonna go up, and there's that picture again. That's that town, Spruce Pine. That's river is right down the middle of their town. Matter of fact, I saw another picture that looks like that river is going right from the back of the property of one of those companies. So, pretty bad hit. So hopefully they'll get up and running soon. And if Will does come, Will, if you in here, let me know when you can. All right. I'm going to go down. I've only got one story left. But let me take a quick drink of my green tea. I was going to take a drink anyway, so I'm not just stalling for Will, just so you know. And now he's gone. So maybe he heard that I'm on the last story. I don't know. We almost had Will. Okay. So California passed a deepfake law last month. So judge halts California's anti-deepfake law. This was on Gizmodo. Judge blocks California's new anti-AI deepfake election bill. A California judge has blocked a bill that would punish people who knowingly spread deepfake videos online, saying it's a threat to free speech. Now, of course, this was triggered by Elon retweeting one. So we'll get to that in the story. This was by Matthew Galt, and this was from, it's updated today. So let's go into reader view. And if Will pops back in, I'll let you guys know. A judge in California ordered a preliminary injunction against AB 2839, a new California law that would punish people who knowingly share election-related deepfakes online. According to Judge John Mendez of the Eastern District of California, the new law likely violates the First Amendment. On July 26, Elon Musk shared a video of Kamala Harris on X that had been manipulated using AI. So it was a parody. The parody campaign spot had altered Harris's voice to say things she'd never said and likely would never say. And I would guess that's okay if you're making it clear that it's a parody and not saying something true, I would think. 2 days later, California Governor Gavin Newsom said in his own post on X that manipulating a voice like that for an ad should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is, he wrote. Newsom made good on the promise and signed 18 different AI-related laws in mid-September. One of them was AB 2839, which targets the people who post and share AI deepfakes of political candidates online. So I think that's the only one the judge went after. Those convicted of knowingly spreading election-related deepfakes in California could be forced to take the post down and pay civil monetary penalties. Imagine how much they'd ask Elon to pay. A day after Newsom signed AB 2839, Christopher Coles filed a lawsuit in California arguing that it was unconstitutional. Coles goes by Mr. Reagan online, and I've heard of him, and is the person who created the parody Harris campaign ad that Musk shared on X. His argument was simple. Punishing him for posting election-related deepfakes violated the First Amendment of the Constitution. So I guess as long as it's clear that it's fake, I guess. Judge Mendez agreed with him. The temporary injunction does not overturn the law, but blocks its effects until Cole's lawsuit is resolved. According to Mendez, Coles will probably win. If he goes in front of that judge. AB 2839 does not pass constitutional scrutiny because the law does not use the least restrictive means available for advancing the state's interest here, Mendez said in the ruling. As plaintiffs persuasively argue, counter speech is a less restrictive alternative to prohibiting videos such as those posted by plaintiffs, no matter how offensive or inappropriate someone may find them. And that's what free speech has always been about. You may disagree with what they say, but they should have a right to say it. So I guess that's where we are with this. Mendez had several criticisms of the law, including that it was too broad. Almost any digitally altered content, when left up to an arbitrary individual on the internet, could be considered harmful. That's true. For example, AI-generated approximate numbers on voter turnout could be considered false content that reasonably undermines confidence in the outcome of an election under this statute. Yeah, I can see that. On the other hand, many harmful depictions, when shown to a variety of individuals, may not ultimately influence electoral prospects. Well, nobody would know either. Some yes, some no, I would think, or undermine confidence in an election at all. So some people are going to be swayed by this stuff and some not. That's why I guess it's important to make sure people know it's fake. He also noted that Supreme Court precedent has long been on the side of free speech when faced with thorny issues around public figures. Even when people knowingly spread false information, even if AB 2839 were only targeted at knowing falsehoods that cause tangible harm, those falsehoods as well as other false statements are precisely the types of speech protected by the First Amendment. That's very true. For precedent, Mendez leaned on the New York Times versus Sullivan. That's a famous civil rights case in 1960. That's when I was 15 years old, and I vaguely remember hearing about that case. In 1960, the New York Times published a full-page ad from Martin Luther King Jr. supporters that called about the police. They called about the police of Montgomery, Alabama. That's right. Some of the facts in the ad were wrong, and the police sued, which I guess they had a right to do. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Times won. Those same principles safeguarding the people's right to criticize government and government officials apply even in the new technological age when media may be digitally altered. Civil penalties for criticisms on the government, like those sanctioned by AB 2839, have no place in our system of governance, Mendez said. So what he's saying is you should have the right to criticize authorities, and that's true. Mendez said that he understood California was worried about deepfakes, but that AB 2839 was an overreaction to the problem. And I think, like he said, it was probably too broad. They probably need to narrow it down some. Supreme Court precedent illuminates that while a well-founded fear of a digitally manipulated media landscape may be justified, this fear does not give legislators unbridled license to bulldoze over the long-standing tradition of critique, parody, and I think that's the key. This one I think was a parody, and satire protected by the First Amendment, he said. YouTube videos, Facebook posts, and X tweets are the newspaper, advertisements, and political cartoons of today. And the First Amendment protects an individual's right to speak, regardless of the new medium these critiques may take. And I agree with him there. So just an interesting story. We're going to be hearing more and more of these kind of stuff in different states, I'm sure. So lots more to come, I'm sure. And that's all I've got. And like I said, Will did stick his nose in here just for a minute. And I did have him in the stream, but I guess he was probably busy at work. And I guess he probably heard me say it was the last story. So he popped out. So we almost had him. Maybe next week. I hope you hear me, Will. Maybe next week. So that's it for tonight, folks. Thanks for everybody who popped in. Thanks for all you regulars. Thanks, Brian, for coming in, even though he's at Universal Horror Nights. Appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a very blessed and wonderful weekend. Let's keep praying for the people out in North Carolina and in all the places affected by Helene. So you guys have a wonderful weekend, and let's always remember we all do better when we love each other. I'll see you next week, folks.